Okay, now the last step to basically pin the razor together. I have flattened this out and ground it down to the length that I want. Hopefully you can see this. Uh, that side right there is, you know, maybe a 16th of an inch, maybe a little less. The other side is however I left it when I peened it the first time. Now I go on my workbench. I have a regular hammer. I've put 2 divots in it. Basically, I've learned a lot of this stuff from Bill Ellis's CD on restoration, and little tricks that you can use to get a job done. I've got 2 little divots here to accommodate different size pins. So basically, I take the peen side, fit it into one of those little grooves that doesn't really move anywhere, and now you just basically want to start peening all around the pin in another circular motion. The whole idea here at first is to get it so that it won't move, so that, I've got it right now so that these scales won't come apart. They're still very loose. So taking a look at both sides, they're relatively even. This side could maybe get peened a little bit more. My pressure's not a lot. Again, this is a 4-ounce hammer, and I'm not being overly, heavy-handed here with the peening. It's just a slow process from now until you're done with it. Basically, you want to get this so it's tight, and the spacer's obviously not moving all over the place. So what I'm going to do now is go between this side and the other side a little bit at a time. I just judge it visually. You could technically count the hammer strokes, but I go visually by which side needs more peening in order to widen out the base and look even. I'll say one more time that the amount of pin that you leave on either one side, some people cut both sides at the same time so they can judge an even amount on both sides. I just peen one side first and then cut the other side to however much I want. That's just the way I've learned myself. But I'll say again that the amount that you leave above the scale and above the washer is going to be determined by how big you want your pin to look, the size of the washer that you're using, and what kind of shape and or look you're going for. Now there comes a point when it's not tight here, but it's holdable. It's not gonna move back and forth too much without forcing it. So at this point I concentrate on keeping the spacer at the position that I want it and evening out both sides. All right, so at this point, both sides, they're looking pretty even, and it's tight. Um, you can see there, you know, it's got flex to it. I leave my spacer as a wedge, if you can see that, so that it actually wedges the razor into place when you tighten the pivot pin. But at this point, they're even and they're pinned down. Towards the end, I try to keep my pins really tight at the wedge. I'll actually pretty much leave it as it is now and go on and pin the rest of the razor together, and then probably come back and tighten the wedge some more. At the very last stages of peening on any side of the razor, you want to I concentrate on trying to get the edges of the pin down even and flat with the washer, and so it's not sticking up. You can't get a fingernail underneath there. It's just going to be a flat, smooth, slightly rounded surface, and you can do that by going around the edges and trying to concentrate your hammer stroke on the very edge of each pin. Now, depending on the scale material you're working with, you might want to protect the scales. This is a G10. This is not going to get hurt from this hammer here. But if you're using soft wood, which I don't really suggest doing anyway, without stabilizing it, you could get little divot marks from the hammer hitting the scale. So some people tape around the scale, around the pin, to protect the scale while pinning. I tend not to do that, but I've pinned enough razors now that I generally try not to hit the scale outside of the pinning area. I try not to make any dents on it. So basically that's it. Now the last steps: pin the razor together and then do any kind of finish up on the pins that you need to do, and that's basically it. Take one more look here. I know it's not the clearest picture, but these pins are pretty even. I got to clean up this spacer still, but it's in place now, so it's not going to be moving. And this razor is almost done. Thank you very much for watching.